God heard. Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. Hey, everybody. Marcus C. Williams here. Good morning. So we need to take a moment and we need to. Hey. No, I think I like what. That's perfectly fine. Woo! I appreciate.
Exercising your freedoms and your rights as an American citizen.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And now, and now the news from the heart of Harry.
Yeah. So as we go into this new world that we are working on cultivating together, we see something very, I don't know how you would say it, concerning going on, where we are becoming more divided, we're becoming more separated, and more people are becoming more disillusioned as things go on. But this seems to all be stemming from this sense that we are no longer collectively a whole of one peoples. And in America, traditionally, I'd say probably before the last 20 years, we've all considered ourselves, hey, AJ, I see you there. We've all considered ourselves all American. We've been proud to be American. Over the last 2 decades, I'd say it started to really start to go back, and people were like, oh, well, I'm this, I'm that. And we ceased being Americans, and we are all now our individual cliques, our individual silos, and nobody's willing to listen to anybody else's voice. Nobody's willing to listen to anything else that anybody has to say. Nobody's listening to anything else that anybody has to think. And if they believe that you could possibly be leaning a different way than their thought or their specific opinion, they want to immediately tune you down, shut you up, and make it so that you're not able to speak or you're not able to say anything. And that's leading to many crises that we see purveying our city of Rochester and our state and our nation. And it's very, very serious. As we continue forward, we see issues with education going on. We see issues with all types of things like crime and violence and things that everybody sees but don't get addressed. We see issues with the economy. Again, these things are not addressed, and we have elected officials in positions that are allegedly supposed to address these issues, but it seems as though the majority of them have forgotten that they're supposed to serve us, the constituency, us, the public, us, the people who are the ones that live in the area, their districts, or what have you. And it gets more and more concerning when we see what appears to be elected officials serving themselves, private entities, private benefactors, instead of serving our communities. It gets very discouraging when people see them separating us, when people see them making it so we are divided for whatever's fancy this week, right? Whether it's sex, gender, race, or political leaning or whatever, they'll find some way to segment us and separate us. And it's very, very alarming and concerning. I'll give you the best example I can that's not even in America that you can check out, and I encourage you to look at. Look at France. So France has had a number of issues going on over the last couple of years. They've had serious immigration issues with a lot of people coming in from Northern Africa and other parts of Africa and other countries. And it's really been affecting their economy because their economy and their school systems and their healthcare system is just not able to absorb that. And you've got a class of cultures, and it's very problematic over there because there are a lot of people that were already in France that were already what you would consider in the lower tier, right? The proletariat. And that's what people didn't really understand. What would be the impact of all of these new immigrants on these people? So they were like, man, our conditions are already jacked up. Now we got these immigrants over here and they're making things more jacked up. So the community and the people started to lean more and more towards focusing on French issues themselves and their own individual communities, and to say, hey, this immigration thing has to stop, something has to be done. But what that did is that fractured the whole country pretty much around two lines. One side saying, hey, we need to focus on France first. The other side saying, no, we need to be a collectivist, globalist entity, and we need to let in all the immigrants from all across the world, even if it destroys French culture, French heritage, and the French sense of community. So with that, it's all come to a head in this recent snap election that's been called by Emmanuel Macron. And I don't want to talk about French too much, but I use this as a corollary to what we're experiencing in America. Macron, he called this snap election because he's on the left. He's a leftist establishment type of person for what you would consider in France. But there is this other party on the right, which would be Marie Le Pen's party, which is considered more so right, more so considered nationalist and stuff like that. Marie's party started to win a number of seats in part of the election. And when they saw that on the left, all of the left, no matter what part they were in, no matter what they were thinking of, no matter whether they aligned or not, they united against Marie Le Pen's party, which would have led to more people that have more conservative or traditional ideals coming to power. They're like, we can't have that. We've got to shut it down. So we all have to come together for that. Now, when they saw them winning all of these seats, they started to have riots in France. Now, this wasn't the people on the right. These were the people on the left. These are these people that we see similarly over here in the masks, in the communist socialist garb, running around screaming, death to America, abolish America, all of this nonsense. It's the same type of activity is going on over there, but not America, France. So clearly there's something else going on behind the scenes here, and this great destabilization in the West. And as we see this happen, and this is my last reference to France, but again, it's a great corollary to what's going on here. Over there, they have, hey, how's it going? Over there, after all of those riots and stuff went on, the left united to try to push the right from getting elections in the second phase of the election. So they won a lot of seats, but the right still won a lot of seats. And what ended up happening after that election is now there's still all this rioting in the streets by the left. They're sabotaging trains over there. The Olympics are going on over there. You can search online. They're vandalizing all of the Olympians' vehicles and stuff that are over there. It's a real serious issue. And these are these same people. And the question is, why? Where is the motivation? What is actually going on? But we can't have those conversations. And we're experiencing the same thing here. There's just a whole bunch of vandalism going on in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia and New York in relation to this concept of free Palestine. Now, I am like, I don't like what's going on over there in the Middle East. I never have. But what's going on with these people that are so-called supporting Palestine is not to the benefit of the people in Palestine. They're destroying American property talking about free Palestine. You make that make sense. They're creating these whole, what would you say, conceptual thought activist type of groups that are surrounding this narrative that they want to free Palestine. They don't know anything about Palestine. They don't know anything about the history over there. And for people like me that are more conservative or traditional or America-centric first, we're like, why are you bothering us with that? If you care so much, go over there. And that's valid. But the more concerning thing with that is, very simply, when they're over here destroying our stuff, how would that make us care about helping anybody that's in Palestine? Why would I care? You're tearing up our buildings, you're destroying our property, you're vandalizing our war monuments. Why would I care about anything going on in Palestine? That just makes me mad at you. That just makes me more be filled with animosity towards anybody that's related to that so-called cause. So now me, somebody who traditionally has been more aware of what's going on over there and more aware of the issues that have been going on over there, I'm like, I can't even talk to you guys because while I'm concerned about what's going on over there, you're trying to destroy my country over here. And what you're talking about in the way in which you're going about it clearly does not represent the best interests of what needs to be done. And it's scary. It's scary because they painted on they vandalized this monument, which is a recreation of the Liberty Bell that was donated by the American Legion. And on it, they were like, abolish America, death to America. And they wrote this on this. They tore down American flags and burned them on fire. And people will tell you that this isn't happening, but it is happening. And it's a symptom of a much more serious issue. These people don't know what's going on. They don't understand conceptually what they're supporting. The real issue is they want to feel as if they're a part of something. They want to feel desperately as if they're a part of anything. And there are malicious actors, okay, private interests, and even some international interests that are moving these people forward to destabilize our nation because it's in their own benefit. You can say, well, it's the people at the top of the pyramid that are trying to destabilize our country so that we have all types of issues and can't see what they're doing. I tell you, absolutely. 100% yes, that's who's doing it. You could say, oh, well, it's foreign interests, it's China, it's Iran, it's all of these countries that hate America that are doing this. And I'd also say, absolutely, you're 100% right. But it's more than just that. It's private corporations too. Why? Because they stand to benefit. When there's disruption, when there's destruction, when there's upheaval, a lot of money is to be made. And people don't understand that. When it comes to the people that are really navigating this at the highest levels, they're benefiting while the community suffers. These people out here protesting for pro-Palestine, which at this point are very little more than anti-American jihadists, because that's how they're being groomed and cultivated, which is terrible to see. I really hope the majority of them come around before it's too late. But when they're out there posting stuff, writing stuff on our monuments and stuff, death to America, abolish America, and putting hatred to our country, and we live here. I gotta live here. Okay, this is my country. My people are from this country. We've always been from this country since before it was a country. I don't have anywhere else to go, and I know the majority of you guys don't either. Where are we going? Canada doesn't want us. Mexico doesn't want us. Where are we going? What is really going on? And why do you hate America so much, right? Because they've been trained to. Because they've been told that if you act like you dislike America, or if you support this cause that is a so-called separatist cause, you are doing a righteous thing and you can be involved with us and we will give you a home. We will give you a home.
You don't define America for us. You don't tell people.
You
identify what American values are. You have your opinion, and you state your opinion, and you don't tell what they are doing. Your facts about plants are incorrect. Your facts about protests are incorrect.
No, they're not. I am not trying to do that at all. I'm not doing. I am not doing that at all. I'm not.
You have no intellectual integrity, and you're
I am not. And you're missing it. You're missing it. That everything I said is absolutely true, and I'm not vilifying them. As I said, as I said, they are being manipulated, and you're not. They are being manipulated, and that's not what we.
And I've heard your insolence and your inability to listen and absorb and integrate other values.
I listen to you all the time, and I listen to them all the time.
And you deserve to get your ass kicked.
Oh, so now you're encourage violence?
Because what I'm encouraging is freedom of people to vote.
Oh, so here's the thing. Here's the thing.
Now you're then going to end up tying in how ballots are
See, I have never said any of that. See, you're inferring something that has not been said, and you're not listening to me. You are feeling what you think that I said. I'm not telling you what you feel. I am telling that you are projecting. Which narrative is it that you think that which narrative? Okay, that's fair. Which narrative is it? Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
I want you to succeed, and I am just identifying you. You're actually projecting out.
Well,
that everything you're accusing of this book.
I haven't accused anybody of anything. I didn't say anything about liberals. I didn't say. I didn't say. First of all, that's not what I said. No, that's not what I said, and you're misinterpreting what I said. But I understand. So, as I was saying, and this illustrates my point, we very much so get shut off from what ends up happening is we all get in our own conceptions of we're so right about everything that there is not an ability to see anything else. So when we are able to have open conversations and debates like that, we start to see and acknowledge that other people really actually are concerned about what's going on in the community, in our country, whether or not we agree. So okay, that's it.
He has the right to walk around with that.
Yeah.
Little children and all. I'll defend his right to do that. But precisely,
as I continue, we need to understand that other people do not always agree with us. But the concept there is that all of our voices end up getting lost. The direction that we're all going ends up getting lost. And because of that, nobody is heard. And that's why we end up with this great segmentation. So everybody feels like we have to find our own tribe. When realistically, as a nation, as a peoples of a nation, we are already all one. The real serious issue is the issues that are very simple, like I said, education, the economy, community safety. We can't have those conversations because everybody sees it so differently that the second that you bring in a conception that something should be done that they deem is against what they believe, the conversation turns into basically a knife fight in the street. And that's a problem. You don't have to agree with somebody to listen and understand where they're coming from. And that's something that we have to understand and remember. I listen to people all the time that I don't agree with. Why? Because I want to understand them as a person. Why do I want to understand them as a person? Because somebody else probably thinks and feels the same way that they do. And I don't. So I need to understand that. But I can't understand that if I don't listen to them. That's why I always ask a lot of questions. That's why I always want to earnestly listen to somebody, because I want to understand. Is there a chance that maybe I'm wrong? Which is the point that I always tackle conversations from. Maybe I'm the one that's wrong. And I'll tell people, sell me on that idea. Convince me. Because I automatically think, hey, based on my life experience, based on my knowledge base, based on everything that I've experienced, this is the way forward. But I want to listen to you and see if you can convince me. It's like the guy at the desk, what's his name? Louder with Crowder. You always see the meme online. This is what I believe, change my mind, right? But we don't do that in earnest. When you see people ask the questions on the street or stuff like that, the second somebody asks a question to somebody that has a different thought conceptually, they seem to get belligerent and aggressive and angry, and nothing ever actually ends up being discussed. You want to know why America's falling to pieces? because we're so siloed in our individual areas and our individual niches that we can't come together on simple things. The majority of people, if you go down the street and you ask 10 people, do they care about public safety? 9 out of 10 are going to tell you yes. Now, when you start to ask them, what do they believe needs to be addressed? Almost everybody will give you a different answer. How do we get there? Who actually knows? But these are the conversations that we need to have. What's wrong with the school system? School system here is terrible where I am. We got the second most funding in the nation, and we've got the second lowest proficiency grades. Why is that? Everybody thinks that education is important, but it goes back to elected officials that say that they're working for you. And I think will.i.am probably had the greatest quote on this ever. Every day in the ghetto is an emergency, but the people in power don't emerge and see. And that's like a wow moment, right? Like, the people that are running things really don't come out to look at what the issues are that are facing the people. So that ends up going into the media, that ends up going into the cultivated narrative that they feed you through social media, that ends up going into all of these different places, and nobody can hear anybody. And that's a problem. That's a very, very, very serious problem, because at the same time that that's happening, where we're not listening to each other, there is a large force that's working against us. There is a large force that's working against us. It's special private interests. And if you listen to the whatever they call themselves, I call them neo-American Marxists, or you might call them socialists or communists. They're not all collectively the same, and you often hear them speak certain different dialogue or whatever. But anybody that really flies the Democrat socialist concept, they'll tell you the billionaires are the problem. The billionaires are the problem. Well, you listen to the people on the right, and they'll say the people at the top are the problem. The shadow government, these people, it's the same concept, that there is somebody behind the scenes manipulating all of us, the people, in some interest and in some way that's not beneficial to us, but is beneficial to them. And I brought up the issue with France to bring up, who is that benefiting? And the fact is, it's not benefiting the French people. So if it's not benefiting them, who stands to benefit? Again, the people that really are manipulating all of the factors, that are in control at the top, behind the scenes, manipulating the policies, manipulating the politicians. And it's the same thing that's happening right here in America right now. We've got a illegal immigration crisis. We can't address that because nobody wants to talk about that. It's become all or nothing. You're either completely against immigration or you're completely let everybody in. That's not real. Nobody feels like that. Nobody thinks that. Nobody thinks that. A lot of the people that want to bring people into this country want to make sure that they're able to have a life that they can establish, where they can move forward and they can actually be able to benefit themselves. Then you got people on the other side, and they're like, listen, we don't want anybody here that's not here legally. And if we don't have anybody here, and if we keep letting people in that are illegal, it's going to destroy our economy because they're not educated, or they don't speak the language, or they're not assimilating, or whatever. So you look at those two, who is the right person? Who is the right people? When it comes to me, to be honest, I don't care. If it's not going to benefit our country, I see it as it's not going to benefit me, because this is my country. I don't have another country. So while these people think that we should bring in all the immigrants and we should let them all here, I always explain to them, what about all of the refugees, and prioritizing refugees over these illegal immigrants? Because we've got, hey brother, how's it going? Good to see you. Because we've got a lot of people that are on refugee waiting lists, that are in camps, that are not able to get over here because the immigration system is now so backed up because of all the illegal aliens. What do we do? Where do we go from here? If we don't start addressing these issues, it's not going to change. But everybody feels they're so right. Now, I know my personal conception is that we need to close the border completely and we need to stop pretty much all immigration until we sort out the people that we have in this country. Because if you don't know this is a fact. A large majority of the people that are here illegally are on expired visas, not people that necessarily hopped across the fence. So that's a very big percentage of the people that are here illegally. But we don't even have a conversation about that because the border crisis has been so exacerbated by policies and, again, private funding that is driving mass migration. Who stands to benefit? The people at the top, again. And you'll listen to many people on the TV say, well, they're going to pick our vegetables and stuff like that. They're going to pick our vegetables where? How many jobs do we have in the agricultural industry for all of these millions of people that are coming here illegally? And have you ever talked to any of these illegal aliens? Have you talked to them? How many of them want to work in a field? Are you serious? Are we going to send them to the mines? Where are we going to? We don't have any connections with any employment as they come in here. We don't really have any vetting, screening, or concept of their educational background. And if we don't have that, how can we help them be productive members of society? We can't. But at the same time, now we've got that crisis. We've got our own crisis where our whole education system has failed and the majority of people coming out of high school can't even get a job because they can't read, they can't write, and they can't do basic math. All the jobs that are coming out on these job reports, most of them are fake and are either government propped up industries or they're industries that are putting out jobs that people can't get. Are you a thermodynamic engineer? How many high schools are teaching that? You understand what I'm saying? We've got a lot of very specialized things, jobs that are coming open that nobody can get because there's no training for that. So then that leads to more competition in the very basic entry level markets. And if you're competing against 20 of your peers that are from here, and now you've got to also compete against 20 other people from a country that are here illegally, what's going to happen? And these are issues that we can't honestly have conversations about. That's a scary thing to me. We've got more and more homeless people every single day. I see them walking by. We've got more and more crime every single day. We've got they just had a stolen car crash into El Pilon restaurant over on Clinton, not too far from here this morning. We had multiple stolen vehicles with armed robberies. They stole the vehicles with guns and stuff like that and knives. Yesterday, it was like 4 of them. You know, can we have a conversation about the crime? What is and why is all this stuff happening? What's up with the homelessness? What's up with the crime? Policy, people. It's policy. And people will tell you, oh, well, it's politics. I don't want to talk about politics because politics doesn't affect me. Well, everything is political. Laws are political, policies are political, and they're put into place by politicians. Guess what? Politicians are political too. But can we have that conversation? No. I don't think that everybody's going to join together and hold hands and sing beautiful folk hymns. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. But when we do have these type of issues, we need to understand that together as a whole country, we need to start uniting because, again, the people at the top are using everything that they can to destabilize us, separate us, and make us not be able to provide for ourselves so that they can more easily subjugate us. All of it is about subjugation. Whether you're on the left or you're on the right, everybody believes that the government is trying to crush them. But why can't we have that conversation? I'm not saying that we're always going to find middle ground, but I'm going to say that if the left thinks that there are people at the top that are manipulating everything and trying to disadvantage the people, and the right thinks that the people on the top are trying to disadvantage and manipulate all the people, isn't that a valid conversation to have? Isn't that a valuable conversation to have? We can't have that conversation. Because the second that somebody thinks to say, oh, well, you're a Republican. Oh, well, you're a Democrat. I don't want to listen to you. I don't want to, because you're from another camp than me. But don't together, conceptually, we want to make it better for the future, whether we agree on how to get there or not. That's something that we need to talk about, right? Let's get down to the basic, simple things that we can all agree on. Crime is bad. The education system is jacked up. And the job economy is jacked up because crime is bad and because education is bad. Most of our issues go back to lack of family units and lack of feeling as though you have a community. If we don't feel as though we have a community, if we don't feel that we have a support network, we as people will run off anywhere and to anybody who seems as if they'll give us a home. And that's what we see. People are so concerned that they're not involved, that they don't have anybody that shares the same, the same, like you're not on the same team, right? Like if you don't feel like you have a team that you belong to, you're desperately seeking that because you feel lonely. We used to have that in local community. We used to have that teams. We used to have that in our family. But family units have been broken up. How many sports teams are there? Not as many as there used to be. And I don't mean like national sports teams. I mean like local sports teams, local clubs, local things like that. You know, they keep getting smaller and smaller and less. And that is a loss of a sense of community. And that's what we really need to talk about. You don't always agree with your brother or sister. You don't always agree with everybody in your community, but you have that sense that you're involved in it together. And that's what these little groups that are popping up, that are working to destabilize our country, are working on. They're working on sowing that concept. Oh, if you come and you align with us, then you are now part of our group. And now you have a home and you have a family. And this is encouraging people to be very highly motivated to serve that individual group wholeheartedly and not even look outside of it for any conception of difference. People are becoming so blind that they are becoming zealots to certain causes, not understanding that many of these leaders or provocateurs are actually being paid or have their own best self-interest at heart, and it's about them and it's not about you, and they don't honestly care about everything. And that is a very, very dire problem that we are experiencing in our nation. I don't have all the solutions to fix it. I can just point out that it's a problem and give us some reasons why we should start to work together more to address these issues. Because I know that if we don't, we will end up in a war, whether it's World War III, whether it's a civil war, whatever. We are at an inflection point in which we can no longer say, hey, let me sit at home, let me sit on the sidelines, let me not get active. If we don't start uniting together and understanding that the government stripping us of things like our rights, our liberties, our freedoms, okay, under the guise of security or temporary security or temporary safety is a problem, we need to, well, we kind of deserve what we get if that's the case, if we're not going to push back against it. And I laugh to keep from crying because the concept is the same on the left and the right. They see the same things as issues, but it seems so more that the people on the left want to more so empower the government, which they're saying is the problem. And the people on the right have moved more to, they don't want any of the government. And at some point, both sides knew that the government was bad, and there was less difference between both sides. But it seems that each side is moving further and further to the extremities, and everybody in the middle is being left alone. And that's why we see more people going towards these extremists. And I'm using quote fingers because I don't believe that many of these groups are extremists, but there are some that are. But these let me say hyper segmented groups, right? Because they feel like they don't belong anywhere. I talk to a lot of Democrats all the time. They feel like the party's giving them up, that they don't have a home in the party anymore. I talk to a lot of Republicans all the time. They don't feel like they have a home anymore in the Republican Party. It's the same thing on both sides. So we've got this great number of people who are desperately seeking Susan. That's a joke about a movie. You gotta watch it. But anyway, the fact of the matter is together we can work to try to repair this before it gets too out of sorts. But we'll be honestly, I don't know how far. I don't know how much we can stave it off, because we are pretty far down the line. And it seems as though the people that are in power have largely set it up to pit us against each other. We've got crime is out of control, but we have no police, right? So what does that move towards? That moves us towards a nationalized or a state level government apparatus that is a new policing force. Because you can't just let crime run wild once it starts to get and impact the more wider narrative. You can't let it run wild when it starts impacting the nicer neighborhoods and stuff like that on scale, right? Not right now, but it's fastly getting there. It's on scale. And these are the concerns that we have to really start to address. What are the people that are in power really doing? Why is this happening? It's a collective plan to subjugate the people and to consolidate power. This is why they tell you not to have any kids. They want you to delete your babies. They don't want you to have any men in the households. This is why they don't want you to be educated. This is why they don't teach financial literacy. All of these things are all part of a much larger plan. And it's conspiracy. We know that it's happening. It's very clear that it's happening. It's happening. Oh, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist or whatever the case is. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a conspiracy fact. Why teach your enemy with enough knowledge so that they can grow as large as you? Nobody wants that. So that's the real issue that's facing us in our community, in our nation. And we are not going to get it addressed until we as a people come together and say, hey, we need to address these issues. But they've made it and cultivated it so that you look outside of yourself, that you look outside of your community, that you even go as far again with the Free Palestine people or whatever they want to call themselves. You look into a whole nother country. How many homeless people? Like there's like 10 homeless people right up and down the street from where I am. I can spit and I can hit a homeless person. Not a joke, real life stuff. But that's how close they are. You know, and there's more and more homeless every day. Why is that? Why aren't we addressing that issue, but we care what's going on over there? You know how many people have been shot, stabbed, or run through with a machete, or run over by a car on purpose? We had the bombing of that car on what was it, Bacchus Street or wherever it was over there the other day. They blew up a car. Like, are we being serious? I can't be concerned about somebody a whole world away, in a whole country away, and be worrying about them when families here are struggling to eat. Families here are struggling to be able to have a home because they're scared that they're going to be put out of their home because everything is increasing in expense. And then you look at why is that happening? It goes back to monetary policy. It goes back to the Federal Reserve, and it goes back to all of those things like that. And nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk real inflation or real monetary policy or the real impacts that are affecting us on a daily basis. Nobody wants to talk about that. because we've all been taught to be so separate from each other. But it's a thing that's affecting us all. It's even affecting the moderately wealthy. When you see your money, let's say you've got $1 million, right? And now that $1 million is worth $500,000, essentially, right? The same buying power. That's a problem. Now you need even more money, right? And then we see these people and we accuse them of avarice or excessive greed and stuff like that. But what we don't point out is that the value of the dollar keeps decreasing. So if the value of the dollar decreases, you need more dollars to cover it, right? So if we really wanted to address an issue, instead of saying, oh, we're going to tax the billionaires and the millionaires and stuff like that, which you can't tax them because they're not actually taking a paycheck. So that is a lie. That could never happen. Manipulating you. And you really have to ask yourself and wonder why. It's subjugation. Because they know if they can destabilize your pockets, then they can make it more difficult for you to live. And you don't have the creature comforts that you have, and you're just barely slipping by, but they give you just enough, you won't rebel. And that's why we're going in the direction that we're going. And that's it. That's what I got for you guys this morning. It's just something that was really, really seriously bothering me this morning that I needed to speak about, because we got a problem and we're too focused on other things to actually address the issues that we're experiencing on a daily basis. I'll catch you guys later. Remember, stand up, speak up, and don't shut up. Take action. Be blessed, be well.